Hello everyone, this is Condor K again, and I'm going to come to you here with my third non-review. Now, the first two were all fairly recent games, and both on the Wii, as you can see. This one is going back a few years though, because I'm going to do Tales of Symphonia. This is the first Tales game I ever played, and before I go on to the non-review, I'd just like to talk a little bit about it, because believe it or not, when we went to, I think it was Blockbuster, to rent a game at the time, I was actually going to get a different one. I can't recall which one it was, but it's one that I had had before. But one of my sisters saw this game and said, hey, this looks really interesting, we should get this instead. And I'm like, I don't want to, I wanted to get the other game, whatever it was at the time. But eventually, everyone wanted to get this one, so I decided, why not? And it was one of the best decisions I didn't make in my life, because it introduced me to the Tales of series, and it's just a really awesome series of games. I've only played this one, the sequel, Abyss, and Fantasia, but they're all really awesome, and I really want to play Vesperia most of all. Anyway, that's just a little history as to how I got this game, and how I really appreciate the history, because it's an awesome game. Anyway, here's my non-review. Tales of Symphonia is one of the games in the Tales series, a series of games made by Namco Bandai, I believe it was. And Tales of Symphonia, luckily, was ported to the West. One thing that I kind of figured out as I was looking through all the games in the Tales of series is that they have a habit of being irregular in which ones come over and which ones don't. And most people have to patch to play and stuff like that. Which kind of sucks, because I'd like to play more games, because the ones I've played, that's Tales Symphonia, the sequel, Tales the Abyss, and Tales Fantasia, they're awesome. But I just like to play the other ones to see how different they were, to learn more about the characters that I see everywhere else, or that appear in cameo battles and such. But that's just kind of something that bugs me. I wish they would keep more straightforward with localizing Tales of games. Anyway, on to the main stuff. Now, the story of Tales of Symphonia revolves around the chosen regeneration, who in this game is named Colette, and she is supposed to be sent out on a journey to go through several trials and eventually reach the Tower of Salvation, where she will regenerate her world, Silverant, and send the Desians who are ravaging it away, seal them away, like demons and such. Of course, that's how it starts off. It's very simple. A group of people get together, a few of them kind of uninvited, and they go through everything and they get to the Tower of Salvation. Of course, along the way they meet another character named Sheena, and she brings in some startling revelations, and they become even more so when they get to the Tower of Salvation, and a bunch of shit hits the fan and a ton of stuff happens. But everything gets flipped upside down, and that's when the next half of the game, or maybe 2/3 of the game, are completely different. But they're much cooler. The game is comprised of 9 playable characters, but you can only have 8 in a party at once. And that is Lloyd, Genus, Rain, Colette, Persea, Sheena, Regal, and then Zelos or Kratos. Depending on what you do at a certain point in the game, you can keep one or the other for the rest of the game. They both fight the same, so it's really more of a preference. The characters are all really likable in my opinion. They all have such different personalities, and they all have past issues and things that kind of bring them all closer together as the journey keeps going. And it really evolves the relationships they have with each other, and they really become a team you could see saving the world through what they do. And they're just an awesome group of people. And I know they're fake, but if they were real, I'd hang out with them in a heartbeat. The gameplay of Tales of Symphonia revolves around the RPG traversing through towns and buying weapons, items, and so on. And then, of course, dungeons, which are a major part of the game, as they're where most of the action takes place. And each section of the game is divided into several dungeons. Like the first section has about 4 dungeons, the second one has a lot more, and so on. And one thing that I like about this game is that it has that level up feature, where if you reach a point in the game where you're just getting your ass handed to you, you can go back and train a little more, level up a few times, try again, and you might succeed. Most games nowadays are kind of getting rid of the level up system in return for an upgrade system of some kind. And I just prefer the old-fashioned leveling up with the experience you get with battle, because you know that if you can't handle this, you just need to train a little more. Well, in upgrades, if you kind of focus too much on the one character's strength, and then all of a sudden you're fighting a magic boss, you kind of need to balance out like their magic resistance and so on. And that's not my kind of thing. The fighting system in Tales of Symphonia is called Linear Motion Battle System. And basically, whatever enemy you're aiming at with your character, they are stuck with that one in a 2D plane. So, if you have a party of 4 fighting 3 enemies, your lines are going to be crisscrossing in front of each other. So it's kind of like 2D battlefields on a 3D plane, because everyone can kind of crisscross through their own paths to kind of get to their enemies. And depending on what you have set on, your attacks kind of change differently. Like, some people I see play with manual, where they can use some of the characters' attacks, like Lloyd's Tempest and Rising Falcon, to get out of sticky situations. I, on the other hand, play semi-auto. The difference is that in semi-auto, if you hit A, for example, your character will run over to the opponent and hit them, while in manual, your character will just attack, and you have to move them yourself in front of the enemy. So it's a really fun fighting system because it's totally free. They give you what you want to do in a character. You have their arts, their techniques. You can control the comms by at least putting 2 of their techniques on your C-stick, and so on. Now we're back to fun, which is the main thing that I like to talk about in games that I do non-reviews of. And Tales of Symphonia is a lot of fun. Just, to put it bluntly, it's a lot of fun. If you have, if you can play 4-player on it, because it's on the GameCube, and so you can pal around with a bunch of people. You can all pick your favorite characters, switch around, and just play through the game. It becomes a lot more fun, and you'll find yourself in dungeons longer because you want to keep fighting, because the fighting system is also just really a lot of fun. And the unison attacks, there's always different ways to do those in battle, and you could wind up with some combination moves that you can find accidentally. Like, I found a few all on my own without even really meaning to. I was just putting a bunch of cool attacks together and got some really cool stuff. That's all, and I played with 4 people. Not as much as I would have liked, but it's a lot of fun. Unlike later games like Tales of Symphonia 2 and Tales of the Abyss that add the flux range, you're stuck on a 2D plane with your enemy, like I said before. In the later games, you can run around in circles and move freely. I used to think, wow, this makes it so much better, and I had gone through a time where I played tons of Tales of the Abyss, and I stopped playing Tales of Symphonia. But when I went back to it, I got more into that groove, so there's really nothing lost with adding the free run in Tales of the Abyss, or not having it in Tales of Symphonia. The game's fighting is still a lot of fun, even without that aspect. The music in this game is awesome. I mean, just from the opening, if you watch the opening cinematic, it's got a really great orchestrated piece. I mean, normally I'm disappointed when Japanese games come to the US and the intros are changed, the intro music. But Tales of Symphonia and the sequel, they were alright because their opening music really fit the animation that was on screen. The orchestrated pieces really added to what you were looking at. Not that the Japanese versions weren't bad, but I don't think it was much of a loss by switching to a instrumental piece. Tales of the Abyss, on the other hand, I actually didn't feel that one as much as the opening, but we'll get to that whenever I review that game. So, I've played through Tales of Symphonia over 10 times in its entirety, And I'm pretty sure, almost every single side quest that I've come across. With the exception of figurines and the collector's book and titles, I've completed almost everything in the game. And it really lasts a long time. If you really get into it, you'll find yourself playing through the game multiple times. One of the main reasons I play through a lot is for the extra bosses, like Abyssion or the Journey into Niflheim. It's just, those side quests, they're just so much fun. And they just keep me coming back to the game over and over again. When I played this game to do this non-review, I had a lot of fun doing it, because I've played the game so much, and even now, I still enjoy going through it again. One last thing that's really cool about Tales of Symphonia is the OVA adaptation. Now, it's really different from the game, but it's awesome nonetheless. It's divided into 3 parts, each 4 episodes. At this moment, only the first 2 parts have been completed. That's the Silveron arc, the Teteala arc. The 3rd arc, which is I think the Joint World or something like that, hasn't started yet. At least last time I checked it wasn't. The OVA is really cool, and if you enjoyed the game, definitely go check that out. So anyway, in closing, Tales of Symphonia is an awesome and really well done game. They have great characters, a great story, lots of side quests, and just a really big fun factor to keep you coming back. The anime is awesome, the sequel isn't. And so altogether, it's a good game. And if you're a fan of the Tales series but you don't have this game, you should definitely get it. And if you want to start playing the Tales series, I say Tales of Symphonia is a good place to start. So I hope you enjoyed that non-review, and I had a lot of fun doing it because it's just one of my favorite games that I have in my collection back there. And so next week, I think I'm going to do another Toku Talk. No, I will, probably. But then I'm going to move on to my next non-review, which will be on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which, aside from Sonic Colors, is one of my favorite Sonic games that I own. So look forward to that one 2 weeks from now, and then Toku Talk next week. Until next time.